It was a tense day in the courtroom. Clint Eastwood, dressed in his usual dark suit, sat calmly at the defendant's table. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes showed a quiet determination. The case was high profile, and the media were packed in the courtroom, eager to capture every moment. The judge, a stern man known for his no-nonsense approach, glanced at Clint from his seat on the bench. Then his eyes landed on something that caught his attention, the $10,000 gold cross around Clint's neck. Without missing a beat, the judge leaned forward, a hint of annoyance in his voice. "Mr. Eastwood," he said sharply, "I'm going to ask you to remove that cross. It's inappropriate for this courtroom." The room fell silent. The statement coming from the judge sent a wave of shock through the audience. Clint's cross wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a deeply personal symbol of his faith. The question hung in the air. How would Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor, director, and icon, respond to such a request? Clint Eastwood didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he simply looked at the judge. For a moment, his eyes calm and steady. "I won't remove it," Clint said, his voice quiet but resolute. The judge blinked, taken aback by Clint's defiance. "You are in my courtroom, Mr. Eastwood," the judge said, his voice rising slightly, "and I insist that you remove it." The tension in the room was palpable. It wasn't just about the cross anymore. It was about power, respect, and who would have the final say. But Clint remained unshaken, his gaze never leaving the judge's. He stood up slowly, his actions deliberate. Without a word, Clint unbuttoned his jacket and removed the cross from around his neck. The room watched in silence as Clint placed the symbol of his faith on the table in front of him. The gesture wasn't one of submission. It was a statement. Clint wasn't being forced to do anything. He was simply making a quiet choice to show respect while standing firm in his beliefs. What happened next stunned everyone. The judge's posture changed. The stern look on his face softened, and for the first time, a small hint of respect crossed his features. Clint Eastwood, the man who had conquered Hollywood and survived countless challenges, had just shown an incredible act of humility and strength in the face of authority. It wasn't just about a cross. It was about the way Clint had stood his ground without raising his voice or causing a scene. The judge paused for a moment and then said, "Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. I will let the case proceed." The media, who had been waiting for drama, were left speechless. There were no fiery exchanges, no outbursts of anger, just a quiet, dignified response that spoke volumes about Clint's character. As Clint sat back down, the room seemed to take a collective breath. The cross may have been removed from around his neck, but the strength of his response lingered. The courtroom, once filled with tension, now felt different. Even the opposing lawyers who had been preparing for a heated battle were taken aback by Clint's composure. Later that day, the story made headlines, but not for the reasons anyone had expected. People around the world were touched by Clint Eastwood's calm defiance and the way he handled the situation with grace. It wasn't about the courtroom drama. It was about Clint's unwavering faith and the quiet strength he showed in the face of adversity. In the days that followed, Clint's response was discussed in every corner of the globe. What had started as a tense exchange in a courtroom had become a symbol of quiet resistance and dignity. The media, usually quick to focus on controversy, found themselves praising Clint for something entirely unexpected: humility. People began to reflect on their own beliefs, their own values, and how they would respond in a moment of conflict. Clint Eastwood's decision to remove the cross, not out of fear, but as a quiet act of respect, resonated deeply with millions. It was a reminder that sometimes the most powerful statements are made not through words but through actions. Clint had once again proven that the strength of character is far greater than any external symbol, and that true power comes from within. His quiet response in that tense moment had touched the world in a way no one had anticipated. As the case continued and the courtroom buzzed with discussions of the day's events, Clint Eastwood quietly left, his presence almost regal as he exited. He didn't seek the spotlight, nor did he need any recognition. He had already made his point, not with words, but with his quiet strength and unshakable principles. The story of the cross in the courtroom would be remembered not just for what had happened that day, but for the lasting impact it left on everyone who witnessed it. It was a reminder that the true measure of a man's character is not found in his actions when the world is watching, but in how he handles the quiet moments, the personal battles, and the moments where integrity matters most. Clint Eastwood had shown the world that day that standing firm in your beliefs without anger or pride is the greatest form of courage. And sometimes, the most powerful moments of change are the ones that happen in silence. His quiet response had spoken louder than any speech, and it left a legacy that would endure far longer than any courtroom drama.